Star Wars Battlefront 2 is EA's sequel to the 2015 reboot of the Battlefront series. In the 2015 release, complaints were raised about how the game lacked a single-player campaign, how it focused only on the original trilogy, and the overall lack of content in that game. Criticisms were also raised about how the gameplay had very little depth in the 2015 release, and how the game felt extremely casual. So with Battlefront 2 now in our hands, did it address all of those concerns and criticisms? One of the biggest criticisms levied towards Battlefront 2015 was the lack of a single-player campaign. So when Battlefront 2 was announced, one of the biggest things revealed about the game was that it would include a single-player campaign. It was going to be about the story of an elite squadron of Imperial troopers on their quest for revenge against the rebellion for killing the Emperor and destroying the Death Star. What we actually got was far more disappointing. This critique involves heavy spoilers from the beginning of the game, so I'd suggest skipping to this timestamp displayed if you wish to avoid spoilers. With that ado, let's begin. The campaign starts out as expected. Our main character and commander of Inferno Squad, Iden Versio, infiltrates a rebel ship and sabotages data aboard the ship while also taking out rebel soldiers along the way. She has a droid character that is introduced at the beginning of the game through some stealth-esque section, though this is the only time it happens, and the droid basically becomes relegated to a fourth ability once you get control of Iden. There's still stealth in this game, though it is up to you if you want to play the campaign like this or not, as there is no benefit or consequence to playing through the game stealthily, and it feels like a missed opportunity to have some Metal Gear-esque levels if you wanted to go and pursue that style of play. Back to the story at hand, Iden and her squad skip to the Battle of Endor, kill some more rebels, watch the Death Star get blown up, fly through its debris, get back to the ship, gets orders from Robo Palpatine, rebels show up, you get in a TIE fighter, kill more rebels, infiltrate another ship, kill more rebels, and then that's it for playing as the Empire. What is probably the single most disappointing thing about this campaign is how quickly Iden defects from the Empire, and what has been advertised as a campaign that focuses on the viewpoint of the Empire. Instead of getting that, we get 3 missions playing for the Empire, and then, because her home planet gets attacked by the Empire, Iden defects. That's not to say the reasoning for defecting is bad, but the story plays that defecting card way too quickly. There's no dramatic build-up or tension surrounding this decision, it's just, oh crap, the Empire is actually bad the whole time. The rest of the campaign is Iden fighting against the Empire up until the Battle of Jakku, and is mixed in with missions where he plays the hero characters of the game. I get the purpose of these missions was essentially to be tutorials for how the heroes play, but when you have an arcade mode meant for that exact thing, most of these missions feel redundant and pretty sidetracked. You play on Naboo as Leia despite Iden being there, and it feels like a waste of time to be playing as a character whose story has been fleshed out through several movies, books, and comics. I mean, she's a freaking main character of Star Wars, whereas Iden has only had one book and this game, and I still want to learn more about her and her squad. These hero missions offer zero insight to Iden and the world around her, and while some of them are genuinely fun and enjoyable, like Lando's mission, most of them feel pointless in a very short campaign. The campaign ends very abruptly. Apparently it's supposed to be finished through DLC, but from what's already in the game, it's not very compelling of a story, and the gameplay of the campaign itself is also not very good, and normally in a game like this where the gameplay is but it would be supported by a really good story, but because since the story is mediocre and the gameplay is mediocre, it just comes out as an overall very mediocre campaign. Before moving on to the bread and butter of Battlefront 2 that is the multiplayer, let's talk about its other offline offering, Arcade Mode. Arcade Mode is basically offline deathmatch and offline horde mode with optional co-op if you want it. You can play a variety of scenarios for rewards and whatnot, though you're only limited to earning 500 credits a day, which is beyond stupid, but the mode does have its own challenges and things to unlock, so it's a fun distraction to net you some extras if you put enough time to it. On to the multiplayer. DICE absolutely nailed the gunplay in Battlefront 2. All the guns look, sound, and feel great and feel like they were ripped straight from the Star Wars universe. Each class has 4 guns to choose from, a basic weapon which gets themed to the area you're playing in, and 3 others that are unlockable through challenges and offer different stats and unlockable mods. They've also added the ability to roll in this game, which feels great to use. The only problem I have with it is that on several occasions I found myself rolling when I wanted to crouch instead. DICE further overhauled the ground-based combat by adding in the class and battle point system. Each class has a distinct role in battle, such as the effective mid to close range assault class and the hard-hitting heavy class, and none feel more useful than another. Oftentimes, a battle will have better use from certain classes, such as the specialist class being more useful to snipe enemies during the beginning part of Theed, where there's more open spaces, and then the assault class becomes more useful as the game goes into the castle and changes into a close quarters area. Battle points directly address the complaint from the previous Battlefront, allowing people to camp near areas for access to heroes and vehicles. With the battle point system, you have to earn the right to use those options, as it now takes skill in order to gain access to those heroes and vehicles. There's also no sense of feeling like the best player always gets the best stuff, as the higher the cost of deploying a reinforcement is, the lower amount of battle points that you earn while playing as that unit. It strikes a nice balance of allowing players to invest in what they want to use in the battle, while also allowing other players to play as what they want. One complaint I do have about the reinforcements is that the light side factions got really shafted to only have Wookiees, while the dark side factions got super battle droids, death troopers, and flame troopers. The other gameplay overall comes in the form of space combat. While hard to master and certainly tricky to do so in the Galactic Assault maps, it shines in the dedicated mode of Starfighter Assault. Allowing players to perform their own maneuvers gives the player a greater feel of control towards their actions, and rather than simply locking onto ships, the game encourages you to lead your shots to take down enemies, and gives a greater sense of skill than in the previous game. Battlefront 2's multiplayer offers 5 distinct multiplayer modes. There is Blast, a simple 10 vs 10 deathmatch mode on a smaller portion of the bigger maps. Strike is an 8 vs 8 small scale objective mode that mixes escorts and defense objectives based on the maps. It is my favorite mode offered due to how hectic the matches can get when everyone is crowded on a choke point trying to get an objective secured. There's Arcade, which we've already gone over, and the second biggest mode of the game, Starfighter Assault. Starfighter Assault takes after the Death Star and Scarif DLC packs of the previous game, and tackle having an objective to accomplish rather than simply being deathmatch. One side is the defenders and must take out as many of the opponent as possible before they complete their objective, and the other side is the attackers and have a limited amount of lives to complete the objectives. Galactic Assault is the main attraction game mode of Battlefront 2 and offers the most depth out of any of the other game modes. You play on a wide variety of maps throughout the Star Wars films, and they're all gorgeously detailed. Much like Starfighter Assault, the game mode involves defenders trying to eliminate an attacker group that has a limited amount of lives to complete an objective. It can vary from defending turbo tanks on Kashyyyk to attacking the core systems of the Death Star 2. A complaint I have for both Starfighter and Galactic Assault is that both modes have maps which lean quite heavily towards one faction. For example, on Camino, it's rare to see all 4 phases of the map, as it's very difficult for the attacking side to get past the first phase, and on the Starfighter Assault map of Fondor, it's rare to see the rebels ever win a match. It's concerning to see such bad map balance wasn't seen by the developers before release. This would normally be where my review ends. I'd say to buy the game despite the mediocre campaign and the balancing issues on some of the maps, but unfortunately I can't recommend the game in its current state because of the game's progression system. To sum it up, Battlefront 2's progression system is designed as if it were a free-to-play mobile game, with massive amounts of grinding in order to gain access to the game's star cards and heroes. So much so, a huge online outcry has changed the game to lower the amount of in-game currency it costed to unlock the heroes and temporarily removing any of the game's microtransactions. It's unknown right now what EA will do to change the system, but as it stands right now, it's a boring slog that is meant only to coerce people into buying past the grind of unlocking what they want, and I will not recommend anyone to a full-price game that acts like it's a typical greedy, free-to-play mobile game. I would wait on Battlefront 2 to address how it will handle in-game progression and then see if it is worth a purchase. Until then, I do not recommend buying this game, unfortunately.